Greetings Earthlings, welcome to NoobTube. Today I'm going to walk you through the process of how I make a loaf of sourdough bread without using a recipe. So the process starts with some sourdough starter. You can see it's pretty loose. You maybe saw some bubbles. We're just going to pour some in there. I'd guess that's probably about half a cup. Then, you're going to need to feed it. I grabbed the wrong flour. I will be adding whole wheat flour to this recipe a little later, but right now, just to wake the starter up, we're gonna start with all-purpose. I've got about a third of a cup right here. Like I said, there's no real recipe. I'm eyeballing everything. You need a roughly equal amount of water. So just add a little extra there. And you stir that up till it's nice and combined. You could use a better tool. I didn't plan this very well. That happens sometimes. But it gets the job done. This has many names. Sometimes it's a biga, sometimes it's a poolish. I usually just call it a sponge. This you're going to want to keep covered in a nice warm place. Some people will tell you to use a tea towel. I find that that tends to dry out your dough, or your sponge, whatever. So I use plastic. That also provides me the opportunity to hopefully get you a time lapse of this as it bubbles. So about 5 hours later, and our sponge is looking nice and bubbly. It didn't increase in volume at all, and some water separated out, as you can see, which tells me that it was maybe a little too wet, and I didn't have quite enough flour in there. But it's okay. The yeast is active and ready to go, so the next step is to actually make a bread dough. Okay, so we are now ready to start adding our other ingredients. We're going to start with roughly equal parts of whole wheat and white flour. I'm just using all-purpose flour, white flour. You can use bread flour if you want. You'll get a stronger crust that way. A healthy dose of salt. Hopefully not too much or too little. Some olive oil as a dough tenderizer. We're going to add an egg as well. That'll help with the texture as well as lending strength to the crumb of the bread. Put our dough hook on and start mixing nice and slow. Alright, so our dough has about doubled in size. So now comes the next step, which is punching, shaping, and panning. So I got this little technique where you add just a little bit of flour to the top of the dough ball. Deflate it and then scrape the sides down. Now the flour on the outside helps keep it somewhat from sticking back to the bowl and prevents the need for making a mess on your countertop. This scraping action that I'm doing helps to form the ball into the sort of shape that we want. And then to get it out, there we go. Now, as you can see, the underside's kind of squished in a little bit, so we're just going to pinch that together. Needs a little bit more flour on my hands, a little loaf. I keep calling it a loaf. It's not really a loaf yet. If it starts to stick, just a little bit of flour on your hands will help keep that from happening. You're going to want to shape it into a roughly oval or egg shape. And then just lay it in your pan. Your pre-greased, all ready to go pan. I like to press it in a little bit just so it gets into the corners. And then cover it back up. And more waiting. The dough's nice and proofed. The oven's been preheated to 400 degrees. It's just, the dough's come just up to the top of the pan, and hopefully we'll get some good oven spring when it goes in. But first, to keep the crust from cracking when that happens, we're just gonna cut a little bit of... Oops, my battery died. Half an hour at 400, and it looks like this. Sounds kind of hollow. It's done. Turn it out onto the cooling rack. It will be hot. Of course, the first time I make bread without a recipe, it turns out better than the version that I filmed, but such is life. Leave a comment if there's anything else you'd like to see me try and make without a recipe, and go cook something.